Hello and welcome to day 3 of our week in Isaiah 40, 25 through 31. So on Monday, we looked at Isaiah 40, 31 in terms of the letters. We were looking at the letters. And then our second day was a podcast on these verses, 25 to 31. Tomorrow, we will, Lord willing, end out the week by diving into Isaiah 41, chapter 41. And end week 3. But what I want to do today is I want to look at the grammar. So we looked at the letters on Monday, day 1 of Isaiah 40:31. This is the verse, "They that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Teach me, Lord, to wait." So that's the verse here. Now, one of the things that I haven't mentioned yet in our third week, or our second week, or our first week, is the fact that Hebrew, when it goes poetic, that is in form. When Hebrew is poetic in form, there is a structure to it. And this structure, rediscovered, it took, believe it or not, it was the 1700s, Herder, who rediscovered parallelism in Hebrew poetry. Hebrew does not rhyme sounds in poetry, although there can be those kinds of sound resonances. But Hebrew poetry functions primarily in terms of parallelism. And so you can see that I've laid out this verse in its parallel form. Those that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. They will lift up wings like eagles. They will run and they will not be weary. They will walk and they will not faint. You can see there's a parallel structure, a kind of what we might call a synonymous parallelism that pertains to this kind of poetry, poetic form here. And so that is something I haven't mentioned yet in our journey through Isaiah. I thought I'd mention it now. Now, the second video day of the week, my pattern is to look at the grammar, the Hebrew grammar. And so I want to look into the grammar of these 4 lines here, this verse, Isaiah 40:31. So let's go ahead and start with the first line. Just to pronounce the Hebrew, it's vakoveh. I'm sorry, this holum should be on the vav. Vakoyeh Adonai, or Yahweh. Vakoyeh Adonai, Yakalifu, Koach. Okay, now I might just mention, why did I say Adonai? I'm very inconsistent with this. I'm sorry. I don't believe. I believe that we can say the name of God as a Christian. I'm not put off by saying Yahweh, although I do feel a little nervous whenever I say it. That's my sense of the holiness of the name of God. But in general, Christians have not. Some have, and I'll leave it up to you as to what you think. But a pious Jew, when they get to the name of God, they won't say Yahweh, which is what it is, but they'll say Adonai, which is the Hebrew word for Lord. And so this is in terms of reading the name of God, there is a practice called Kethiv Kareh, or Kethiv Kareh. And the idea here is that it's written one way, Ketiv, but it's read another way, Kareh. And so the way it is written, Ketiv, is it's written Yahweh, but it is read Adonai, and that is in reverence for the name of God. And so the name of God, the letters are literally YHVH, Yahweh. However, the vowels underneath relate to Adonai. So this Shavah underneath relates to the Ketef Shavah that's under in Adonai. Now, there's no holum here. Perhaps there could be a do, nai, sometimes you do see the holum written. And then I has a kamatz, and so there's the kamatz. So the vowels underneath, so the letters are Yahweh, but the vowels relate to Adonai. By the way, the word Jehovah is a strange word because it takes the vowels from Adonai and the letters from Yahweh. This is not. I'm trying to say how to say this delicately. The word Jehovah is a made-up word. Yahweh is the word, and then Adonai is the way it is said. Jehovah mixes the Ketiv and the Karei together in a way that no Jew would have ever said that. That simply would not be. The Jews say Adonai, and then if you're reading it for what it actually was, it's Yahweh. Jehovah is a splicing together of the Ketiv and the Karei in a way that nobody ever did. Nobody ever did until whenever that 1800s, 18 or 1900s. No one ever said that word in that way until modern times. So in my mind, you either go full in and say Adonai, or you go what it actually was and say Yahweh. But the other word is not a word. I'm not saying not to use it. I still sing "Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah." You know, I could still sing that song, and I appreciate it. But the word Jehovah isn't really a word. It's a modern. I don't know whether it was based on a misunderstanding. It's a strange word. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm not disrespecting God in any way. I'm speaking of a word that is a strange modern word that is the splicing together of what it is and the way it was said. Well, okay, we got that out of the way. So what is this here? And but I'm gonna call this a disjunctive vav. So a vav on the front of a word. A vav on the front of a word is almost always the word and. I think there might be a weird exception out there that I forget what it is, but almost every time, virtually every time, a vav, there's like maybe 2 or 3 exceptions in the Old Testament, but almost every time, a vav on the beginning of a word is the word and or but. It is the conjunction that connects things. Hebrew uses it over and over and over and over and over again. By the way, in Mark chapter 1, if you read Mark chapter 1 in the Greek, it says and immediately, and. There are lots of ands that begin Mark the verses in Mark 1. This seems to me to be a Semitism that is a carryover from Hebrew. Hebrew begins almost every sentence, it seems. I mean, it's very prevalent with the word and, except the word and can also double for other English conjunctions, so like or but. And in this case, I think this is probably a but. But those that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. Even young men grow weary, but those that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. So when the vav at the beginning of a word functions in this way, we call it a disjunctive vav. It's but rather than and. And again, only context can tell you that sort of thing, because in Hebrew, it's the same v. But the waiters on Yahweh, those who wait on the Lord, all caps, Lord. This is a participle. The telltale sign of a base, remember there's the base, the Grundstamm, the base stem, which is the G stem or the call stem. In the participle, the ones waiting is the way you might translate it. But the ones waiting, waiting, there's the participle, waiting upon the Lord. This holum, this dot after the first letter, the kof, that holum is the indicator that this is a participle. The ones waiting on Yahweh. Okay? Now, the ones waiting on, this yod sere is a masculine plural construct ending. And if I were to bring up interlinearbible.com, it would tell you that this is in the construct state. It would tell you that this is call or Grundstamm. It would tell you that this is a participle, and it would tell you that it's in the masculine plural construct. The waiters of Yahweh. Waiter, the wait. We are all waiters, hopefully. The waiters of the Lord. So the waiters of, the of comes from the fact that this ending is a construct ending. When a noun, or in this case a participle, is in the construct state, you put an of after it. Again, think of it as I'm learning a new game. It's the game of life. It's the game of Hebrew, and languages have interesting rules to their games. So, but the waiters of the Lord, they will renew strength. Okay, remember I said that Hebrew verbs have 3 consonants usually as their basic root. The 3 consonants here are chet, lamed, and pei, kalaf. So if you were to click on the Strong's number above this word, it would take you to kalaf, which is something like renew. However, it is in the, so this is in the imperfect tense. There are only 2 tenses in Hebrew, ish. The perfect tense and the imperfect tense. The perfect tense has a sense of completed action. The imperfect tense has a sense of action that is not completed. And so you can see that if you wanted to say something in the future tense, you would probably use the imperfect tense, because the imperfect tense is things that aren't completed, and things that are in the future aren't completed. And so those that wait upon the Lord will renew strength, koach. That works just fine, will renew. This hirik yod after the second consonant is a telltale sign of the hifil stem, the H stem, the causative stem. They will cause them to renew, something like that. The patak under this yod is also a sign of the perfect. Of the hifil stem of the verb, the H stem. So how do I know it's imperfect? There is basically I'm sorry. Hebrew is it's fun once you know it. But there are all these little, if you're kind of like, wow, I'm learning a new game. I love learning new games. Then it's great. So let me tell you part of the game. So the tense, the imperfect tense, the way you tell imperfect tense is it's going to have a preformative on the front. It's going to have a letter tacked on the front. That yod is, so remember I said that the chet, lamed, pei are the root letters. And so the hirik yod is the H stem. So why has there been a hirik yod inserted, an E inserted after the lamed? It's because it's the hifil stem, the causative stem. Why is there a yod and a sharuk attached to it? It's like you put on earphones, earmuffs on the front and the end. It's Christmas, it's cold out, right? The yod and the sharuk. Why is that put on there? This is an imperfect thing to do. When you're putting something in the imperfect tense, you put a performative and sometimes a subformative on the 3 basic letters. Now, the yod and the sharuk, what does that mean? That means that the subject is a third masculine plural. The subject is a they, a masculine they. And I know that because I'm talking about the waiters, right? The waiters of Yahweh. Those that wait on Yahweh, they will renew strength. And so this is imperfect because of the yod, sharuk. It's third person masculine plural because the yod and the sharuk. And it's hifil causative because the hirik yod will cause to renew, something like that. Okay, again, if you don't get it all today, we're going to be doing this for the next 35 weeks or so. So eventually it'll stick if we do this long enough. Second line. Now this is, again, this yod sharuk pattern. This yod on the front, sharuk on the end, third masculine plural imperfect. Yod on the front, sharuk on the end, third masculine plural imperfect. Okay, so I want to now show you that this appears over and over in these verses. They will mount up with wings as eagles. They will run and they will not be weary. Yod on the front, sharuk on the end. Yod on the front, sharuk on the end. They will walk and not faint. Yod on the front, sharuk on the end. Yod on the front, sharuk on the end. So this third masculine plural imperfect structure is all throughout this verse. More imperfects, more imperfects, more imperfects. So yod on the front, sharuk on the end. Subject is a third masculine plural. They, okay? So they will go up a wing like an eagle's. This is Allah, which means to go up. Yes. Okay. So, right. So they will go up wing. This is not the way we would say it. We would put a preposition on wing. We would say on wings, which is, I think, the way I learned it. They will mount up with wings. We need a preposition. We need a with or an on or something like that in English. They didn't. They will go up, wing, like eagles. Sometimes it feels like they're speaking a little caveman here because they leave out some of the words that we have in English. That's okay. They understood what they were saying. So they will mount up, wing, like eagles. Okay, so this kaf is a preposition, like or as. So you again, I don't know if you remember from last week, but in Hebrew you stick the preposition most of the time onto the word. So what we saw last week was the lamed when it meant to something, to you, for example. This is a kaf, like something, and you stick it straight on to the word. Nasharim is the word for eagles. That hirik yod mem is a masculine plural ending. We saw a masculine plural ending here. This was masculine plural construct, the ones waiting on Yahweh. But this is a masculine plural stands by itself, which is called an absolute. Eagles, like eagles. And it's not eagles of, that would be construct. It's just like eagles, period. Okay? So this is like eagles. And this hirik yod mem is the S on eagles. Okay? They will mount up wing like eagles. Again, these are imperfects. They will run and they will not grow weary. So two imperfects here. This is the word for not. There's the word for and again, velo, and not. They will run and not, they will grow weary. So two imperfects here. Yod on the front, sharuk on the end. Yod on the front, sharuk on the end. So the three letters for this verb is resh, vav, tzadeh. And then the three letters for this verb are yod, gimel, ayin. Okay? So very simple grammar there for Hebrew. And then same structure for this one. They will walk and they will not, and not they will faint. Now, this is an interesting form. And when you go, one of the things, I think Hebrew is much less involved than Greek. There are some really peculiar things for us English speakers when you're learning Hebrew. But if somebody's telling you what the forms are, once you get to a certain point, Hebrew is easy. What makes Hebrew, probably, if you can get past the letters, and some of these kinds of weird things, which are fun, right? Once you get past that, probably up there pretty high, one of the hard things about Hebrew is that letters disappear. You have to be a good detective to analyze Hebrew because things disappear. You have what are called weak verbs. A weak verb is a verb where so we've said that the basis of a Hebrew verb are these three consonants. But a weak verb is a verb in which one of these three consonants falls away or it disappears. Where did it go? Oh, where has my consonant gone? Oh, where could it be? And so one of the hard things about Hebrew, if you're learning it entire, is learning how to recognize these weak verbs where one of the consonants goes away. Of course, this is, again, the great thing about interlinearbible.org is that it's going to tell you what the word is. And so, yeah, I don't have to memorize it because it's going to tell me. But again, if you want to go the full shebang, you're going to have to learn about these things. Now, this is a strange one. It's one of those that you kind of memorize, like go and went in English. It's kind of like, why does went look different than go? Who invented this language? Well, Hebrew does a funny thing that it's just peculiar to this particular verb. This verb here is called halak. And the three letters are Hey, Lamed, and Kaf. Where did the Hey go? What the Hey? Well, the Hey is gone away. This is very peculiar. This is not even a normal weak verb. But for some reason, in the imperfect, the Hey goes away. And you just have to learn to live without the Hey. It's like, the slaves in Egypt. But anyway, by the way, the word halakha, walking, is the word for Jewish ethics. Halakha is instructions on how to live, which is why, in my opinion, when Paul talks about walking in newness of life, Romans 6, or even 1 John, if we walk in the light as he is in the light, this idea of walking is about living. And he's not talking about some legal fiction where, well, I'm not really living any different than I did before, but because I'm in Jesus, it doesn't matter. I can live the same as I did before I believed in Jesus, but because God is only looking at Jesus, I'm okay. That's a completely foreign concept to the New Testament. The idea of walking in newness of life or walking in the light, that is ethics, pure and simple. It's about living. It's about how you as an individual live from day to day. It's not a legal fiction. Anyway, the word for walk has to do with living. They will walk and they will not faint. So anyway, this particular word halak loses the Hey in the imperfect form. And you just have to be ready for it as you go further into the language. Well, there you go. Isaiah 40:31, it's Hebrew grammar in a little bit of detail. Tomorrow, we're going to jump in to chapter 41 of Isaiah, if the Lord tarries. So we'll see you tomorrow.